that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now done by Disney, Orkin Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Today, we have book 13 of the 19-book epic New Jedi Order, Traitor, by Matthew Stover. I hate it. I got you. Haha. I hate the cover. This is my only diss on the book. This I hate this. This is ugly. This looks basically just like Dark Journey, except it's got Jason's face, so you know that Jason's the main character. But obviously the thumbnail I used, the Japanese art, is significantly better than this. And that is my only diss on this book. It's perfect. Nothing's perfect, but it's the closest thing to perfection. It is my favorite Star Wars book. It is one of my favorite books ever. I love this book. I love it more than the Episode 3 novelization. It's my favorite thing in Star Wars. I love this book. It speaks to me. It vibes with me. Everything that I am works with this. I'm going to read the back for you real quick, which I don't usually do, but it's Stover, so we're going to do it. After the capture of Coruscant, the mighty heart of the New Republic, a stunned galaxy fears that nothing can stop the Yusong Vong. Still, that crushing defeat produces one small miracle. Jacen Solo is alive. Yet, he can scarcely imagine himself in stranger circumstances. The young Jedi Knight is in the care of Vajir, a fascinating creature of mystery and power, her intentions hard to fathom, her cruelties rarely concealed. But this master of inscrutable arts has much to teach the young Jedi, for she holds the key to a new way to experience the Force, to take it to another level, dangerous, dazzling, perhaps deadly. In the wrong hands, the tremendous energies of the Force can be devastating. And there are others watching Jacen's progress closely, waiting patiently for the moment when he'll be ready for their own dire purposes. Now all is in shadows, yet whatever happens, whether Jacen's newfound mastery unleashes light or darkness, he will never be the same again. And I think that is the most important thing to take away from this book in general. He will never be the same again. I have longed to re-talk about this book again, being a now seasoned veteran of the Expanded Universe, having read everything. Or mostly everything. But I've also dreaded it. Because this is the most controversial book, right? This is the thing that kind of hinges every other direction of your thoughts and opinions on everything moving forward, is this book by Matthew Stover, this masterpiece. But the thing about this masterpiece is that it's interpretive. It was intentionally written to be so. There are certain things not to be taken as interpretations, but this is how Matthew Stover writes. He, much like Joe Bongiorno, when I talk to Joe Bongiorno about supernatural encounters, does not want to give you an answer. Of course they have answers, of course they have opinions, but they want you to believe as you wish to believe. I talked to Stover for 40 minutes or something like that at Legends Con. You know, it was a great time, and he was so gracious about it. And I'm sure his opinion of later stuff is negative, and I'm sure my views on this book may not be his views. I don't know, because he won't share it. He may have said things in some interviews, but he's still rather vague. Because he wants you to take from this book what you wish. And I'll leave you what he wrote for me in my copy of this book. For Alex, what a story means is exactly what it means to you. Matthew Stover. His signature. Non-spoiler wise, what can I say here? The first 2 sections of this book are basically long philosophical discussions with Vigier. It starts off with Jason in the embrace of pain, being tortured for who knows how long, within a span of a year, obviously, but talking to Vigier all along the way. And then he goes to a garden, nursery sort of area. Stuff goes on there that I don't want to get into without spoilers. And he continues to have philosophical discussions with Vigier. And then he goes on to Yusantar, where further stuff is developed with him. And all ends with Ganner Rysode finding Jason, and ends with Jason escaping the claws of the Yusong Vong to return to the main galaxy, to return to our heroes. And that's as much as I can basically say without spoilers. But this book is, for all intents and purposes, a long discussion, for a good portion of it. There is a plot, but it is a big philosophical discussion being had. And this book is 85% dialogue. And if you're not into that, then you may not like this book. But if you're anything like me, where characterization and dialogue is the most important, then this may be your favorite book. I will say also, I don't think this book would hold as much weight without the context of New Jedi Order. Matthew Stover even said this in his panel. He knows that fans of his that aren't Star Wars fans but are fans of Matthew Stover have read this book by itself and liked it well enough, but he really thinks that you can't truly appreciate this book without the context of the New Jedi Order as a whole. And I would agree with him. Because it really hinges upon being in a shared universe. You know, Stover talked about at Legends Con during his panel, which I'll leave a link in the description, or you should look up Matthew Stover Legends Con panel, you'll find it. I also have it on my channel. But he talked about, you know, it's a thing of, he doesn't like exposition. He really hates exposition. But where he was at with Book 13 of the New Jedi Order, he was at this perfect spot. Because he didn't have to explain anything or give build-up or anything like that, because other authors already did that for him. All he had to do was provide the story of Jason Solo and Vigier. And that's it. So he was basically free to do whatever he wanted. All he had to do was tell people the beginning and the ending. And that was about that. So it worked out really well. This book is one of a kind. There's not many books like it. But every time I think about the New Jedi Order, or I think about Star Wars in general, I always come back to this. So I'm going to stop here with the non-spoiler. I want to get into the meat and potatoes, because I know I'm going to piss people off, because everybody hates me. But non-spoiler wise, it is phenomenal. This is the best book, in my opinion, of the entire New Jedi Order. In fact, it is my favorite book in all of Star Wars. It's my favorite story in Star Wars, even above the films. This is, when I talk about New Jedi Order and why it's peak, you know, I think about Edge of Victory, I think about Star by Star, I think about Traitor. This is why you read it, to get to this point, to see this story by Matthew Stover that's so brilliantly told. Everything I tell you is a lie. Every question I ask, a trick. You will find no truth in me. That's it for non-spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, if you don't care about spoilers, stick around. Otherwise, Get out of here. Okay? I give you a warning. So that's that. Okay. Okay. I have a lot. Jason's grief. I think it's just very important to notice how this book starts with Jason in the embrace of pain, suffering, being tortured. Yes, it's the Vong, it's not Vergier that's necessarily doing that, but still, he's dealing with far more than most people his age ever have to. And I think right now, by the end of this book, he's endured more pain than even his uncle has. But, it's hard. And he's obviously still dealing with the grief of Anakin. And dealing with the fact that he's gone. And then Jason gets Ulic Dromad. Vergier takes the Force away from him, making it so everybody thinks he was dead in the previous books, because they can't sense him anymore. Now, Vergier may say that everything I tell you is a lie. But here's what I think is one of the truths that she tells. When Jason says, you should feel this on my end, and Vergier goes, do you think I haven't? Because she's been with the Vong for over 20 years. She has most likely been in the embrace of pain. Already. This is important. And this is the crux, because we have to get to her philosophy, or what I believe to be her philosophy, which is going to piss people off that don't agree with me. Sucks to suck, that's what happens when you have an interpretive book. Don't like it, make your own video. This is my interpretation, but we'll get to that. Naminor also makes an interesting comment about the Empire, and how, and I don't think he believes this, but it's still interesting to think about that he says, yes, it's a good thing that the Jedi defeated the Empire, because we may not have been able to defeat the Empire. And then Taz Van Long goes, well, of course the gods would have allowed us to defeat. Well, of course the gods would have allowed us to defeat the Jedi. And then he goes, well, yeah, the Jedi were working for the gods without even realizing it. I just thought that was interesting. This is also when Jason's character finally starts to change into someone I like. He kind of has a numbness now to the pain. He can kind of just endure it now. We're getting closer to what I need to talk about, but we also have the Shadow Moth discussion, which is one of the highlights of the entire book for me, which is the discussion about, well, I helped the Shadow Moth, but in the end it died, because I helped it, instead of letting it grow on its own. In the same way that she's not, right now, saving Jason from his torment, allowing him to endure this, so he can learn something. And I thought that was a great little thing there. Pain is a teacher. We're getting closer and closer to what I really, which is the meat and potatoes of this, Vergier's philosophy, but we're not quite there yet. When Jason brings up the Jedi and Sith, Vergier goes, Jedi Sith? Are these the only options? No one's watching. So here's another point. People like to say, well, she only says certain things because, well, they're being watched by the Vong. Well, that's true during the Embrace of Pain. But when she says this is by the time that they're on Coruscant. Or by the time they're in the nursing area, where they're not always being watched. And there's no mention of them being watched in that particular scene. So that's just her being genuine. Why lie about that? It's not even really lying. She's simply asking the question, is there only the two options? But beyond that, I think there is something more to her with that. I think she truly believes that there doesn't have to be two options. Get into this again. Moving on. Then we get to one of the coolest moments of this book, which is when Jason throws down with the amphistaffs, where he starts slicing down Vong and stuff at the end of Act 2, I guess, with the nursery. It's phenomenal. We also get these talks about the gardener and sowing out the seeds and choosing to act. Many people talked about this, but it's mostly just a way for Jason to start acting instead of constantly questioning every move. I don't think this is necessarily something for Sith, but we're getting to that. Moving on. Hold on. Jason has a vision of Anakin in the nursery when he's going to kill the Durium, but he doesn't, because he had a vision of Anakin. Now, was that him hallucinating? Was that the Force? Was that Vergier manipulating him? I don't know. I like to think that Jason's just going a little insane right now, so he's hallucinating that. But it could also very well be Vergier. So here's something people always use to demonstrate why Vergier is not a Sith, and she's definitely a Jedi, which quickly to dispute the only thing that Matthew Stover made abundantly clear at Legends Con was A, Vergier, in my opinion, not a Sith. You know what else she isn't? A Jedi. Everything in my book was meant to be interpretive, but that was meant to be explicitly clear, so I don't know why people are saying otherwise. Like certain people have been arguing about this for 3 years. You know who you are. But anyway, so this is the point they always bring up. To dispute future stuff. To say why it's stupid, why Jason is stupid moving forward, right? Which is Vergier's comment about mindless violence. But what's the true point here about that? Yes, she does not want Jason to cause random violence. Duh. But you have to get to the heart of the matter. It's not really about the random violence. Or about calling Jason out for being like, well, you wouldn't be stupid. Only stupid people, would randomly violence things. But her point here is that, but that's not you. So you wouldn't do that. You don't have to worry about that. Because, as we'll get to later on in this book, if you turn to the dark side, it is only because you are dark. You were already bad from the get-go. That is the point she's trying right now to get to, and will be hammered in later. She believes Jason to be good at his core. And with the belief that she's built up, he cannot go dark. Unless Jason is already bad, which she doesn't believe him to be, because she has accumulated a philosophy. And I think I've finally come to a revelation of the differences between me and other people with this. But we'll continue on for a second. Without even Stover's comments at Legends Con, she directly says, when there's no one watching, she is not a Jedi or a Sith. Again, what reason would she have to lie? None here. I believe her. It's also abundantly clear that she's a Jedi from the Old Republic. This is hammered home by Rogue Planet and Outbound Flight, but she says that she knew Anakin, or at least knew of him, Anakin Skywalker. They're underneath the Jedi Temple. Vergier seemingly has betrayed Jason, or so it seems to him. And he loses it. He unleashes the dark side, hurts Vergier, destroys part of the temple. In his dark side rage, important. Moving on. Here is the crux of everything that needs to be discussed here. There is no dark side. The crux of my belief. This is what she's really been trying to hammer in. This is one of the essential points that she's been trying to make. Jason, for 9 books, has feared turning to the dark side, has feared whatever course he takes because he doesn't know what course is the right one, and has constantly fought with Anakin over what he should and should not do, in fear of this darkness. What is Vergier's solution? There is no light side. There is no dark side. There is only you. Jason Solo, if you start killing mindlessly, you cannot blame the dark side. It is only you. You are the problem if you start to do that. But I don't believe you would. She doesn't intend for him to do anything like that. She's not saying anything about ends justify the means. That's not the point. The point is she doesn't believe for the slightest millisecond that Jason could do these things because she believes at his core that he is good. This is the crux. This is my belief. She does not believe that the light side or dark side are real. She only believes in the individual. That they make their own choices, which is true. But the wider universe as a whole, the context behind that, there is real spiritual forces behind this. Supernatural encounters only further enhances that point. So it is a flaw. It is a flawed belief. But she is not a Sith. She's not a Jedi. Because she's formulating a new philosophy. And I finally figured out, yeah, the end of this book, she wants Jason to be a teacher. He was a student, and now he's the teacher. A teacher of what? People say, oh, he's supposed to be Qui-Gon Jinn, the new Luke Skywalker. No. He's meant to be better than Luke Skywalker. He's meant to usher in the Jedi into a new belief system of the unifying force. Hold on. But this is what she wants for Jason, to usher in the Jedi into a new belief system, her belief system. Because upon thousands of years that the Star Wars galaxies have with Jedi and Sith and different Force philosophies, she thinks she's got it. She's figured it out. She's not a bad guy. She's not a Sith. She's not a Jedi. She's something new. And she wants Jason to spread the gospel of this new belief. But just because it can work for an individual does not mean it can work for the group as a whole. This is my belief. Matthew Stover may disagree with me, but as he stated, right here, what a story means is exactly what it means to you. This is what it means to me. This is the crux of everything she believes. This is the fundamental flaw. Because while she is a good person at heart, what she's trying to teach is inherently against what the universe, wider universe as a whole, has been teaching. Maybe Matthew Stover completely agrees with Vergier. I don't care. It goes against the EU as a whole. I don't think that's a flaw. I think that's actually key in helping future stories make sense. Because Vergier has the best interest for Jason and the Jedi at heart. That's what I think now. But the philosophy that she's built up, that she's trying to teach Jason, that she's trying to embark on him to spread to others, to become this new teacher of her philosophy, is inherently flawed. That's the problem. It works for horror. Sorry, a lot of interruptions today. But that's basically the point that I'm trying to get at. And you can disagree with me in the comments. You can fight me and debate me. But that is my belief. And it works fine when Jason's surrounded by family, when he still has Vergier, but eventually he doesn't have either, because he goes at it alone and encounters things in his 6-year sojourn that is rather vague. But the dark side and the light side are real. They are real, tangible, spiritual things. And so, teaching that philosophy, yes, she doesn't want Jason to kill people mindlessly. That's not her intention for him. He knows that. He doesn't plan on killing people mindlessly. But the dark side is a slippery slope. It is something to fear. Luke fears it. The unifying force. Fun concept, but doesn't fit with the reality of the universe in which this book takes place. And that is the fundamental issue. Not her being a Sith, not her trying to manipulate him, but that she is just fundamentally wrong, but she's been convinced that she is right because of her years with the Vong. And that is the problem. She loves him, she cares for him, but that is the fundamental issue that we have here. Jason uses the dark side consistently. Near the end of this book, he continues to use it. And she never gets mad at him for using it. A Jedi would get mad at him for using it. She isn't, because she believes he's good. So she doesn't get upset when he uses it, because she never thinks he would go that far. He says about the animal that's eating the person, he says, well, does it matter the severity, the amount? What if he only eats a quarter of that little deer or something? What does it matter if he eats the whole deer or half a deer or just a leg? Like, what's the difference? Again, this is important. Because her fundamental idea is that if Jason is good inherently, then he won't go bad. Not that he can justify certain actions. That's not what she wants from him. That may be indirectly what ends up happening on his own time, when he has his own time to reflect on things. But that's not what she's trying to teach him. When Jason talks to Anakin, this was a great scene. He makes his way. Well, first there's this whole thing where he goes into this monster thing, and he tries to save this girl because, this whole time Jason's been such a hypocrite and a little prideful little craphead where he keeps yelling at Anakin, but this whole time he's wanted to be the hero. He just can never act like Anakin could because he was too busy doubting. But now he has stopped doubting because the anger and the hate that he has from the dark side has been just letting him make decisions. So he goes and saves this girl, only to realize that the people that are inside there have been sacrificing people to this thing. So he convinces the monster to spit them all out and leaves them for the fate of the Yusong Vong because he just doesn't care. And he knows full well they're most likely going to die, but he leaves them there to die because he's fed up with their bull crap. Very important. Anyway, he makes it back to his apartment and has this huge talk with Anakin. Is this really his spirit talking to him? Is it crazy Jason talking to himself? Or is Vajir manipulating him again? If you take the Sith route with Vajir, I can see why you would think it's a manipulation tactic, as it seems to point to where she wants him to go. Is it the Force itself? Is it actually him? No, that's too happy for this universe, or for this particular era of the universe. I don't believe that either. Jason is talking to himself in the form of Anakin. That's my belief anyway. But regardless, it was a phenomenal scene, and I loved it dearly. I also just want to mention that he mentions at some point that he's been a natural with the lightsaber since he was 3, which is cool. Then we move to the final part of the book. Ganner meets Jason. But now Jason is acting very much like Vajir, aloof, cryptic, vague. Here's something that I started to think that I didn't think about the first time. I feel like Jason manipulated Ganner on purpose. I think the entire desired outcome, in the end, was for Ganner to buy time for Jason. He only felt bad about it later when Ganner and him were getting along. But as I read into it this time, it felt like he was doing it all on purpose. Everything he did was just like what Vajir's been doing, trying to get Jason to a certain point. But it felt like Jason was now manipulating Ganner into exactly where he wanted him. So that's my belief. You can disagree with me. It felt like to me that he had purposely manipulated Ganner into the position that he ended up finding himself in. He played the cards perfectly to get him to where he wanted him. Then we get one of the coolest scenes in all of Star Wars history, where Ganner says, "None shall pass." and he slaughters Vong left and right and gives time for Jason to escape. Teacher of what? You know, Verger was a teacher, and Jason was a student, but now he has become the teacher. And I already kind of talked about what I want to talk about with that, so I'm not going to bring that up again. He messed with the world brain, so they'll never do exactly what the Vong want, so they can be taught a lesson on fanaticism. And the book ends with him on his way back home to his family, for Destiny's Way to begin. Like I said, people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. This book was fascinating. Anyway, lastly, it's been a busy day. I apologize for all the cuts. You may disagree with me. That's okay. That's the way Stover intended it. I'd rather have an interpretive book where we could disagree and argue. You know, it's fun to hear different perspectives, different beliefs about what this book means and what it is trying to tell us. This is my belief. Verger is a good person. Spent a long time with the Vong. Gathered a new belief, separate from any Jedi or Sith, that she believes to be true. And she feels a kinship with Jason and tries to teach him what she believes. And then they escape. And we'll see what happens to her moving forward. But, regardless of what you believe, we can all agree that she's one of the most fascinating characters in all of fiction. She's great. And Jason is great. I went from hating this guy to absolutely adoring him by the end, and it was just the same the second time around. He's great, and there's only... Don't own my own place yet, so... What can you do? I'm sorry. Anyway. Phenomenal. Phenomenal book. I don't know which way you put it, which way you slice it, or which way you dice it, or what you believe this book is trying to tell you. It's a masterpiece. Matthew Stover is one of the bestest people to our planet. Love his book. Go check out his Legends Con panel. Go read this book. Go read everything he's ever touched, including non-Star Wars books. Read his stuff. He's phenomenal. He's great. Go read this book. It's worth your time. It's a hell of a time. It's wonderful. And we will talk next time about what happens to Verger and Jason and every other character in Destiny's Way next time. Till then, may the Force be with you. I can finally be done this time without a bunch of cuts. Anyway, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.